Good morning and welcome back to our Ask the Agronomist Facebook Live. We are here today once again outside of our plots at Alexander, Iowa with Phil.
Yep.
How's it
Another
going
beautiful
today?
morning.
It is. Can't complain. The last few mornings have almost felt like fall.
Yeah, I know. It's got that little bit of Christmas in the air, and it's kind of getting exciting. But unfortunately, we'll probably be back inside before we know it. So
Right.
that's not something to look forward to. But
Yeah. Well, we'll enjoy it while we have it.
yeah, exactly.
So, how are things looking around the area this week?
Well, I think everybody, a lot of us enjoyed a nice rain. I know some of the guys that needed it more didn't get as much as they were hoping. May get a little here at the end of this week, but things are looking really good. You know, in a vast majority of the areas, you know, our territory, looking really good. And that rain was a nice rain for the soybeans, especially.
Right.
But even just kind of finish out the corn.
All right. Good deal. Well, we are on the way to a good harvest.
Yeah, again.
All right. Well, today we're going to be talking about two different topics. First of all, late season scouting, and then secondly, we're going to be talking about soybean gall midge, which is kind of an up-and-coming insect.
Yeah, something that they've talked about the last couple years. It was actually kind of discovered or found, whatever you want to call it. It's really probably been there for a while, but found in Nebraska in 2011. And there was a little bit of information on it, and then in 2015 they found it in South Dakota, and now in 16 they found it in Iowa, and they're seeing higher numbers. When the gall midge first came out, they thought it. Well, I should back up. A gall midge is really essentially a small fly.
Okay.
I know we're not where I'm originally from, and but we're close to wheat country, and the Hessian fly, which is also a midge as well. Does the same thing. It burrows into the center of the stem of the plant and basically feeds on there and creates a gall. Just like you'd see on a tree or something. I know that they're looking at early season treatment for the adults coming in and laying eggs, because once it's inside the plant, insecticide's really not going to do much for you.
Right.
Yeah, so that's an important factor, but hopefully it doesn't get to the point of the Hessian fly like Hessian fly is in wheat. Very important thing, but if you see it, like I said, it's going to cause a growth, but even before that, you'll start to see browning. You might think it's kind of a stem canker, a disease of some kind on the stem. You can split that stem, which is what we're talking about in a second here. Split that stem. It's the most important part when you're looking at late season diseases and stuff in soybeans. Split the stem and look at it, and you'll be seeing those larvae in there.
Right.
They start out white, and then they'll eventually turn like a bright red orange color. It'll be very distinctive to see.
You can't miss it.
No, yeah, you won't be able to miss it, especially if they're that brighter orange reddish color in the stem.
So what is the damage as far as yield? Does it knock out the whole plant, and when does it hit?
Yeah, so there's really no treatment, obviously, like I said. So it's going to eventually, eat out if it's got enough time. It's going to eventually destroy.
Okay, good deal. And with that being said, let's just jump on over into late season crop scouting.
Sure, it's a good transition because insects are one of the things we look for a lot. Diseases, those two intermingle with the gall midge. Those two things are very important late season. But the first thing I want to say about looking and scouting late season issues is number one, knowing what growth stage you're at. I talk about splitting the stem all the time, but I should flip the plant over and talk the other way here about looking and trying to figure out what reproductive stage it is, because a lot of times I'll ask people and they don't understand. When you're in the reproductive stages, the easiest thing to think about is the only thing you want to look at is these top 4 nodes. So
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's always what you're looking at.
Mhm.
If there's a development on one of those upper 4 nodes, or what it says, if you have a guide, in our case like R6, you're going to see that kind of that edamame, that green bean
Mhm.
full pod on one of the total nutrients, total dry matter, and all that stuff around 6.5 to 7. So 7's when you start seeing that turning in color.
Mhm.
R6 is when you have that full bean. So in between there's when basically it's done and it's slowing down and drying down.
Okay.
So that's, you want to protect it up to that R6 time frame, and that's when it's really critical when it's trying to fill this out. If you have issues affecting the plant at that point, it's gonna affect the size of those beans.
Okay.
So the other thing is just some quick tips on whether it's an insect or a disease. You know, number one, I always say split the stem.
Right.
You know, if it's a disease late in the season, something like sudden death syndrome or brown stem rot, those can only be determined, well, sometimes even by going to a lab, but the best thing you can do is split the stem apart and see where you're having issues, if it's the center of the stem or if it's the outside cortical tissue. Those kind of things are diagnostic factors. And then the other thing with diseases, when you're looking for insect stuff, I always enjoyed entomology, and that's one of those things, you know, the easiest way to tell them apart is knowing the damage. You know, we've got a few little spots of damage on this leaf, but if you know whether it's a chewing insect or a piercing, sucking insect, they call it, kind of like an aphid or a stink bug.
Right.
Those things can pierce. That's why late in the season, a lot of times you'll see stink bugs pierce into a pod. And then that's when you can get issues inside the beans and discolorations and things you don't want. But things like grasshoppers or thistle caterpillar or soybean loopers are, you know, they're going to be chewing on the leaf. You know, and some of them have different ways of doing that, really large, and some of them are kind of a window painting or make it a clear kind of a visual look. So those kind of things are what you want to distinguish between. People about what stage they're at, you know, make sure you just pull a pot off and put it up to the sun. It's a really easy way to tell, you know, on those upper 4 nodes where you're at development wise.
Okay, sounds good. Wow, lots of good information this morning.
Yeah.
All right, anything else to add?
I just say, you know, when it comes to agronomy, it's never one thing. You know, whenever I go to the field, it's a good day when you can say it's one thing and one thing only. You know, whether that's something like herbicide damage or one particular insect, but usually it's multiple things.